About this time there went a rumor throughout the valley that the great man who was to bear a resemblance to the great stone face had appeared at last. It seems that many years before a young man had left the valley and settled at the distant seaport. So suddenly people started speaking about a man that he is going to come and he resembles exactly like a great stone face. And he was the young man who has left the valley long back and settled in seaport. Seaport, a place near the sea. Gathergold, which was his name, had set up as a shopkeeper and being sharp in business matters had become so very rich that it would have taken him 100 years only to count his wealth. In time, he thought of his native valley and decided to go back there and end his days when he had been born. So his name was Gathergold, and he was very business-minded person. He has opened his shop, and he has become so rich that with immense wealth. And it was said that if he start counting his wealth, it will take hundreds of years to count that money. And he had wished that he would come back to his native land in order to be died over there. Ernest had been deeply stirred by the idea that the great man, the noble man, the man of prophecy, after so many ages of delay, was at length to be seen in his native valley. So he was so eager, Ernest was so eager to see him. At last the prophecy man is going to come, to appear, and he wants to see that. While the boy was still gazing up the valley one day and imagining that the great stone face returned to his gaze, the noise of wheels was heard, and a crowd of people cried, "Here comes the great Mr. Gathergold." So as he was sitting, Ernest was sitting and gazing at the great stone face mountain. Suddenly he heard the noise of the cart, and the people were crying loudly and speaking about him. "Here comes the great Mr. Gathergold." A carriage drawn by 4 horses dashed around the turn of the road. Suddenly he saw a carriage was pulled by four horses, was running on the road. Within it thrust, partially out of the window, appeared the face of an old man with yellow skin. Then he saw from the cart a old yellow face was appearing, looking outside, and it was with yellow skin. "The very image of the great stone face," shouted the people. "Sure enough, the old prophecy is true." People, as soon as they saw the face, people started shouting that prophecy is true. Here we have the great man at last. And what greatly puzzled Ernest, they seemed actually to believe that here was the likeness which they spoke of. So what was puzzling means it was doubting. For Ernest, it was like a puzzle that man is not of like great stone face. As it was told, he turned away sadly from the wrinkled shrewdness of the unpleasant face and gazed up the valley where the stone face seemed to say, "He will come, fear not, Ernest, the man will come." So when Ernest saw that face, he found that the face is not pleasant. It was shrewd, it was full of shrewdness. It means unpleasant face. And so with that he became very sad, and he came back and sat looking at this great stone face, and silent voice was heard in his heart, "Fear not, the man will come." The years went on, and Ernest grew to be a young man. He attracted little notice from the inhabitants of valley. They saw nothing remarkable in his way of life. So now he has become a young man, and he was noticed by the inhabitant, means the residents of the valley. And his life did not change. He was living the same kind of life, except that when the labor of the day was over, he still loved to gaze upon the great stone face. The change little bit was that after finishing all his work, he used to come and sit and gaze at the great stone face. The idea was that this was a folly but pardonable, because Ernest was industrious, kind and neighborly. Now, this work which he used to do, that was pardonable, it was forgivable, and still, person who sees him feels like it is only foolishness to look at the great stone face. But Ernest was a industrious, means he was very hardworking person and kind and very good to the neighbors. They did not know that the great stone face had become a teacher to him. The valley people did not know that great stone was his teacher, and that the sentiment which was expressed in it would enlarge the young man's heart. Sentiment, the feeling which he had for the great stone face, was making his heart enlarge. It means to love everyone and fill it with a deeper sympathy than other hearts. It was full of sympathy and love for others. They did not know that from this would come a better wisdom than could be learned from books. See, and the people of valley did not know that he was gaining the wisdom from this great stone face, and that knowledge cannot be learned from the book, only through experience. Neither did Ernest know that the thoughts which come in him so naturally in the fields that at the fireside of Neither did Ernest know that the thoughts which came in him so naturally in the field and at the fireside were of higher tone means of quality, than those all men shared with him. So whenever he was speaking at his work to the people, the thoughts which he was sharing were having great value, and they were appreciable by everyone. A simple soul. He was very simple soul. Simple as when his mother first told him the old story. His thoughts were as simple as the child, innocent child. He beheld the marvelous face looking down the valley and still wondering why its human likeness was so long in coming. So he was still wondering why that man who is resembling him is taking so long time to come in the valley.